Let's talk about the Scofield Bible. This is the last thing I wanted to bring up with you. I don't know much about it. We had a little bit of a conversation.
Light the fuse, because you're going to make a lot of preachers mad with this one.
I don't care.
I know. I don't either. What do you want to? What do you want to know about it? Have you dug into it at all?
No, I've been waiting for this conversation to dive into it.
Okay. So there's a term called dispensationalism. Dispensationalists believe in dispensationalism. It's basically dealing with the end time. So it's dealing with Jesus coming back, what's going to be happening before he comes back, after he comes back. And before I get into this, I would like to say that any Christian listening to this, it doesn't matter if you think I'm right about what I'm about to say, or you think you're right about what you say, as far as your salvation is concerned. You're not going to go to heaven or hell based on if you are right or wrong on this subject. Let's start with that. There was a preacher named John Darby a few hundred years ago, and he came with the angle at the end times that the rapture would happen. The rapture meaning when whoever's left here on earth that are still actually real Christians will be pulled up off this earth before God completely destroys it with fire, with wrath. He said, I destroyed it the first time with water. The last time I'll destroy it with fire. So before he brings his wrath down to that level, he will pull whoever's left, the remnant as they're referred to, out of here. Dispensationalism comes in and says that that rapture that we refer to will happen prior to all the really, really traumatic things are going to happen in the earth during the Great Tribulation. That has been laid out in Daniel and Matthew 24 and 2 Thessalonians 2 and a lot of other places. It's been talked about. They say, John Darby and then Scofield wrote the Bible that backed up Darby's angle at this. The rapture could happen at any second. The rapture, they would go to the churches and they would say the rapture could happen before this church service is over. So you better get right now, because it could happen like that. In the blink of an eye, which is what it says. It does say in the blink of an eye. Boom, just like that. So what that led to was mass revival. I mean, people were like, I don't want to get left behind. Remember the Left Behind books? And so a lot of people got saved, and a lot of things happened that were actually positive things. A lot of people got saved. But when you start reading about Matthew 24, to me, is the one I've told most people to read. Matthew 24 is where Jesus is sitting with his disciples, and the disciples ask him, Lord, what will be the sign of your coming? Meaning, what's going to be going on the earth before you are about ready to come back? And then Jesus takes the next about 27 verses of Matthew 24, and he says, okay, this will happen, and then this will happen, and then that, and then that, and then this, and then this, and it's in order, just like this, all the way down through. And the further it goes into Matthew 24, the harder it gets. It gets to one point where it talks about the son of perdition will arrive. The son of perdition is who we would refer to as who's going to be the Antichrist. The son of perdition will show up. And it says when he stands in the holy place, when he stands in the holy place, basically pronounces himself to be God. I am Jesus. I am God. I am whatever he's going to say. It tells the Christians that are still alive at that point to run. Run. Don't fight him. Run. Get out. It says run to the mountains. It says woe to the women who are with child or in labor. To the farmer in the field, do not return to your house to grab your cloak. Run. Get out. Well, that ain't the end. And then it continues, and it goes on and on and on. And after it gets way deep into that chapter, it says, and then you will see the sign of the coming of the Son of Man. Meaning, that's when you'll see me coming back. After all this has happened, then you will see me. The reason they stopped preaching that is because it's very uncomfortable for Christians to have to think about that. You mean I'm going to have to go through that if I'm still here? Based on what that says, yeah, that's what it says. And then I've heard some Christians say, and even some preachers that have attacked me online have said, God wouldn't make us go through something like that. God wouldn't do that to us. And to them I say, really? Why don't you go tell that to the underground Christians in communist China right now who are being killed by the thousands? Why don't you go tell that to the Christians in Syria right now who are being chopped up into pieces in the streets? Do you think fat, lazy American Christians are better than them? No. They are superior to us. They are willing to worship God and be a Christian when it means they could die for doing it. And we don't have that problem in the United States. So to say that God would never make his people go through something like that is one of the most ignorant, spiritually ignorant things a person could say. That's number one. Number two is, in modern churches even today, they still don't want, there's a few, but not many, they don't want to preach that. Joel Osteen is never going to preach that. Joel Osteen is never going to say anything that's going to make anybody uncomfortable ever on any level ever. He's never going to say anything that would prick the heart or conscience of his congregation and then offer an altar call like Billy Graham did when he speaks the truth about what Jesus said and what happens if you decide to go the other way, and lays out what hell is and lays out what heaven is and lays out what this is, and then offers an altar call in those stadiums of people that will come out to see Billy Graham. Thousands of people coming down there to pray and give their life to Jesus. You're not going to see Joel Osteen do that. And there's a bunch of other preachers like that. Here's the risk. The risk in dispensationalism and what I am saying, the difference in the two. And again, this is not you're not going to go to heaven or hell based on which one you think is right. The risk is when the Antichrist shows up and I'm still here and I go, that's the Antichrist. When the mark of the beast shows up and they're telling everybody, you got to put this chip in your wrist or you can't buy or sell. When those things happen and Christians are still here, they're not going to believe that's the Antichrist, and they're not going to believe that's the mark of the beast, and they're not going to believe any of this stuff because we're still here. Because if that's really what that was, he would have already pulled me out of here. That's the risk. That was part of the point of Revelation, was to bring on that conversation. And I had it with Tucker Carlson to begin with. And that is a real risk. So I ask Christians to go read Matthew 24. Go read 2 Thessalonians 2 for yourself. Read it slowly and read it a few times by yourself. Just read it and word by word and see what I am saying in these. And then you're going to hear preachers go, he was talking about 70 AD when this happened and that. And they try to twist this thing all the way back to Darby and Scofield and all that. But just read it for yourself. Because everything that needs to be in place for the tribulation to happen is now here. My dad's been preaching since the late 1970s. And he said, John, myself, other preachers, ministers that I knew, none of us could understand how a lot of the things in Daniel and Revelation and 2 Thessalonians 2 could even take place. Like it was like science fiction. He said, like, for instance, it says you can't buy or sell anywhere on the earth unless you bear the mark of the beast. He goes, well, how in the world, we're thinking, would you be able to monitor every single person on the face of the earth? That's impossible. That sounds funny to us now, right? Because of course you can monitor every single human being on the face of the earth. Of course you can. They're doing it right now. They just haven't weaponized it to that point yet. He said, this is my dad. He goes, we didn't have satellites all the way around the earth back then. I mean, you can get a cell signal in Uganda in the middle of nowhere now, right? I mean, you can talk to anybody anywhere. Mm-hmm. It talks about how the Antichrist can project his message onto the entire earth at the same time. He can basically communicate to the whole planet. I was like, well, how in the world? He said, we're all going, how in the, maybe he's telepathic. My dad said that. We all thought maybe the Antichrist is telepathic. Maybe he can like get in your head and put thoughts in your head and communicate that way. We just couldn't figure it out. He goes, now we've all got these. We talked earlier about the days of Noah, and that's the way it's going to be in the end. And we talked about in the days of Noah where fallen angels thrown down to the earth, polluted the human race, everybody except Noah and his family, God flooded the earth. And the point of the devil doing that was to try to derail the birth of Christ. That was the point. If we can pollute the entire human race, we messed up the bloodline that'll eventually have Jesus Christ being born. That was the plan. God saved Noah, they failed. Noah starts it over, here we go again. You go to the beginning of the New Testament, it shows the entire bloodline of Noah all the way through Jesus Christ, all the way through the end. Beginning of Matthew shows the whole thing. So the question is, if it's going to be like it was in the days of Noah and the devil tried to pollute the whole human race, how's he going to try to do it this time? What's he going to try to do to keep Jesus from coming back where he ultimately loses? What's he going to do? Is he going to try to pollute the human race again? Maybe. How would you do that? I don't know. Tech? Maybe. Again, nobody really knows. These are question marks, but you can read it for yourself and start to put things together. My whole goal is not to convince anybody of anything. My whole goal is to make you think for a minute, go read it for yourself, because if you're alive on this earth when this starts happening and you're a Christian, you need to be able to identify what it is you are seeing. You need to know that's what that is.
So are you saying if you don't know what it is,
you will step in the hole? Everybody line up and get your chip. Well, this can't be the mark of the beast. We're all still here. Okay, I'll take my chip. And what does it say about people that take the mark of the beast? If you take anyone who takes the mark of the beast, their name is not written in the Lamb's book of life. That's the book. That's everybody that belongs to Jesus that's going to heaven is in the book, the Lamb's book of life. If you take that, you are not written in the Lamb's book of life. I'd say that's a pretty final move. So can you imagine if you didn't recognize that for what it was because you didn't have the discernment in you? And where does discernment come from? Does it come from you? Where does it come from? The Holy Spirit, right? So if he's not in you and you're not able to discern that and you walk right into that wood chipper, well, there you go. People need to think about that because, I mean, I'm telling you, with AI coming on board like it is right now, we're not that old. Very good chance. We live out our years like we're supposed to. I think we see it.
I think about it all the time.
I think we're going to see it. And I think that's why you're seeing a revival happen amongst people. I think that's why on my little tiny scale, I get hit with particular songs which allow certain conversations to happen. I get to sit with guys like you and talk about it in front of millions of people, get them to think about it. That's my little role. Because I think it's upon us. I think it's coming.
I mean, I think about it a lot with a lot of things, with social media, Neuralink. I thought about it with the vaccine.
Yeah. How about that? What do you think that was?
I took it.
I think that was, see how far you can push people.
I didn't want to take it.
Yeah.
But my firstborn was coming right at that time, and I was like, man, I can't fucking miss this with the vaccine.
There was no way you could know.
But wish I would have never done it. Well, thank you. Thank you for the education.
Hey everyone, I got big plans coming up for this channel. More commentary, some interviews, and eventually it's going to be to go to biblical sites and do videos there on the history of the Bible. We're talking Sodom and Gomorrah, Mount Sinai, walking Jesus' footsteps, and there's two things I need to do that. One, of course, God Almighty, and the second one is you, so hit that subscribe button.